Hello, welcome to Tuesday's Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw. I am delighted to say that Keith Jackson's been dropped. Performance is not good enough. So tonight I'm joined by Scott McDermott. Scott, how's it going?
I'm good, Daniel. You okay?
Very good, thanks. We're also joined fresh from a 20-hour flight from Australia, the one and only Ryan McDonald. Ryan, how are you?
Absolutely scared to be back, but
Good trip though.
Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing. As I was just talking to you guys off there, if you've never been to Australia, make sure it's on your bucket list because it's someplace.
Aye. Have you been, Scott? I've never been.
I've no. I
would love to go though, definitely.
It was unbelievable. I was extremely lucky with the weather as well. It was apart from Melbourne, which is known for having 4 seasons in one day, the rest of it was all scorching 30 degrees weather. So can't really tell in the webcam just now, but I'm golden brown.
I believe you. You're obviously back to it today and back in at the deep end. I know you were at Lennoxtown today to hear from Martin O'Neill, and I know he's obviously assured us now that this is going to be his last game against Dundee tomorrow. Am I alone in thinking there's just that wee chance that I don't think it will be his last game?
Yeah, the way this is it's 5 weeks now since Brendan Rodgers has left, and Wilfred Nancy still isn't in the building. I think we're all taken aback when Martin O'Neill confirmed on Sunday that he'd be staying on for the Dundee game due to paperwork issues. So you wouldn't rule anything out at this stage. But yeah, I think we asked him today, and he said 100%. This will definitely be his final game in charge. So you'd expect Wilfred Nancy to be in the dugout on Sunday. It's a kind of crazy situation. It's not often that you find a club parting ways with a manager that's just been, albeit an interim manager, that's just been named manager of the month, like Martin O'Neill has. So it is a kind of strange situation because, I don't know, probably a lot of fans would probably have hoped to have kept Martin O'Neill on at least till the cup final and possibly to the end of the season. Celtic have been in really safe hands, and I don't think there's any other kind of manager or figure that could have done as a good a job as Martin O'Neill has done since he's come back and steadied the ship at Celtic. So he deserves enormous credit for that. 73-year-old, and the work that he's done. He's probably surprised himself, and obviously Sean Maloney and Mark Fotheringham have played a massive part in that as well. So yeah, he'll be looking to bow out tomorrow night with another 3 points, and he might even leave Celtic top of the league depending on how the result goes at Tynecastle tomorrow as well with Kilmarnock.
Scott, as Ryan says, they're manager of the month for Martin O'Neill. Look, I know if Wilfred Nancy is going to be the man, it's better to just get him in, ASAP. But with Hearts at home and Roma at home, I would have thought it would maybe make more sense to keep O'Neill at least for those games. And I've got to be honest, like I would keep him on for longer, I guess. I'm not saying at the end of the season, but I just think the impact he's had has been so refreshing. He's been like a breath of fresh air. He's got people like Hatate and Maeda, producing their best again. It's been brilliant.
I know. Well, I know what you're saying, but they need to get the new manager in at some point.
I know.
Game after game. But listen, you're right. I mean, Wilfred Nancy is going to get thrown into deep end, Hearts, Roma, and then a cup final. I mean, it's some kind of baptism. Coming to a new job, new country, new club. But as we say, he has to come in. He has to come in at some point, and it's obviously dragged on a while. And although the fans, they'd be gutted to see Martin O'Neill go because he's had this kind of renaissance and he's kind of turned the clock back. I think there's the fans want the new man in. They want to see what he's all about. Of course, we could be sitting here in a couple of weeks, and if it doesn't go well for Nancy initially, we think, should they have kept Martin O'Neill a bit longer? But look, they need to get him in at some point. And if Martin O'Neill can get a victory tomorrow night, which I'm sure he will, against Dundee, I think it'll be a good atmosphere tomorrow night. It'll be his last game, and I think the team will put on a performance, put on a show for him. I think they'll win comfortably. It sets it up nicely for Nancy to come in. They'll obviously need to kind of hit the ground running. It's a big game at the weekend, but it's a home game. It could be the chance to go top of the league if they're not there already. I think it's the right time. As you say, Martin O'Neill, 73, he's done brilliantly, but he can't go on forever in this job. I think he's enjoyed his wee stint, and he'll be quite happy to step aside.
Aye. In the comments, we've got comments coming in already. If you want to get involved in the conversation, please let us know your thoughts. Your loyal Muppet says, as a true blue, I can't wait to see O'Neill is gone. He's been too good, but too old now. Martin says, Nancy was head coach at Crewe with a sporting director. Could Celtic do the same with O'Neill? Mark says, she can't leave Nancy hanging. We are not Rangers. Sean says, Man United hired Ollie based on a successful interim spell and still haven't recovered. Long-term success comes from getting in the right long-term candidate. And Mark finally says, big statement win tomorrow for the legend that is Martin O'Neill. I think we can briefly look at Celtic's upcoming fixtures, Ryan. And look, as Scott says, a huge game at the weekend against Hearts, massive game, and then obviously a really tough one against Roma. They're going really strong in Serie A this season. And then the cup final. What is your thoughts? I take on board everything everyone's saying, get the new man in and what have you. I don't know, like the idea of Martin O'Neill lifting another Celtic trophy, or trophy for Celtic rather. I don't know. I would just keep him a bit longer, I think. I don't, as I'm saying this, I don't know until when though. As Scott says, you need to bring the new guy in sometime.
And that's the thing. I kind of agree with Scott in that sense that you can't just keep delaying it and indefinitely. He's got to come in at some point. And the thing is, there's a bigger picture here. They've got the January transfer window on the horizon as well, and this is his opportunity to kind of put his stamp in the squad. Obviously, he'll be working closely with Paul Tisdale. I know that the Celtic board will be looking to right the wrongs of the summer window as well. So there's a lot on this January transfer window, and obviously Celtic are competing across 4 fronts as well. They're currently second in the Premiership, albeit they could have win a trophy next weekend. But they have aspirations of probably winning a treble again, going far in Europe. That win against Feyenoord was massive and has kind of relit the hopes of progressing in the Europa League. So I think this is the right time, and Wilfried Nancy also has an opportunity to kind of rewrite the narrative surrounding him at the minute. A lot of people may be unconvinced by his credentials. He's coming from MLS, Columbus Crew. It's going to be a massive step up joining a club like Celtic. I probably won't know what he's signed up for until he's here. But if he can beat Hearts at the weekend, if that's going to be his first game, and either overtake Hearts to go top or stretch the lead at the top, get a decent result in Europe at home to Roma, and then win his first piece of silver at Celtic within his first 3 games, that would be a massive a brilliant start for him, a dream start for him. And it would relieve a lot of pressure as well. So I actually think this is the ideal time for him to come in. I think whether it was deliberate or not, Martin O'Neill, seeing out the 3 difficult away games to St Mirren, Feyenoord and Hibs, the fact that he's negotiated those games and won all 3 of them was massive as well.
That's a fair point.
It's not as if Wilfried Nancy is now going to be walking into a changing room in disarray. Celtic are actually in decent shape now when you compare to how they were at the end of October when Brendan Rodgers left. Obviously, the fans and the board are at loggerheads at the minute, but if you actually look at the team and the way they're playing in the form, he's walking into a good dressing room there full of confidence, and yes, it's a big opportunity for him. I think it's the ideal period for him to be coming in. Martin O'Neill's done an amazing job. He's definitely enhanced his legacy at Celtic, and as I say, I don't think there's any other man or figure that could have come in at that point in time and do the job that Martin O'Neill's done. So he'll be he's just enhanced his legacy by doing that.
Right, I totally agree, and that's the great thing about the O'Neill appointment, Daniel. When you think about when managers go and an interim boss comes in, it's usually maybe his assistant or another coach or somebody coming for the academy. You think even at Rangers this season, like Stephen Smith coming in for a game. Celtic were so lucky to have Martin O'Neill available and ready to come into that gig, because you think of the experience he's got, the success he's had, but also the personality and the character to get into that job, and not just again with caretaker bosses and you're waiting on a new man come in. Sometimes teams can just drift along. The new guy's just basically holding the fort till the guy comes in. Martin O'Neill's not done that. He's actually went and enhanced his own reputation, but made players better, lifted the dressing room, reinvigorated a Celtic team that looked so flat, when Brendan Rodgers left. So I think he's actually done Wilfred Nancy a favour, because, as Ryan says, Nancy's going to come in. He's not coming into a flat dressing room anymore. O'Neill's actually been able to lift them, get them winning again, get them up the table, improved guys, as you say, like Hatate, no end, who now looks back to his absolute best in the space of a few weeks. So I think that's been the brilliant thing about Celtic being able to get O'Neill in, is that this wasn't just a caretaker guy coming in, as I say, somebody just to keep things ticking along. He's actually went in, made them better, improved them, re-energised them, and that can only help Nancy coming into these big games coming up.
In the comments, Scotland the Brave, I don't know why I singled you out here, Scott. Scott, how do we know Nancy isn't going to come in straight away and tear the league up with attacking football that we haven't seen before? Nobody knows. O'Neill is a legend. He's done amazing. Look, he could. I mean, that's obviously very feasible. But all I'm saying is that Martin O'Neill, I get he's obviously an older guy now, but Martin O'Neill is a top manager. You know, he is. I don't even know how. He's a Celtic legend.
Yeah, he is. It's only his age that's going against him. Daniel, he's 10 years younger. No, might be a different story. I think I heard somebody saying the day that the other great thing about how well he's done is it does prove, that experience does count. Guys that have been in the game a long time, guys that Martin O'Neill's age can often be written off. As kind of dinosaurs now. You're not telling me Martin O'Neill's into XG and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And all the stats and analytics. It just shows you that if you're a good manager, you're a good manager. If you know how to manage people, if you're a big character, big personality, with that kind of guile and experience and just nous about the game, and he's been in the game so long, there's still room for that in football. Don't write it off. So I think he's probably done all the old stager managers a turn by coming in and showing he can still do it.
Because everyone wants the new young coach, don't they?
Exactly.
So it's kind of refreshing to see him come in and
what I really don't think can be underestimated is the fact that he truly has lifted the entire mood around the club. Well, it's certainly the changing room anyway. I'm up and down to Lennoxtown twice a week, and I've even noticed the change, just even the players, the mood and around the place. We spoke to Arne Engels today. He was bombed out under Brendan Rodgers, and we're speaking to him today, and he's laughing and joking. He's got a smile on his face. Even the security guards. There's an upbeat mood around Lennoxtown just now. It was funny today where I was up to about 20 minutes early with a few of my colleagues, and we were just waiting in the media room, and Martin O'Neill comes bundling in saying, tea, coffee. There was no tea or coffee or biscuits waiting for us when we arrived. He pulled poor Gordon Duncan from Clyde One Super Scoreboard to write down everybody's orders. So he came in, gave these orders, and then I think the tea lady came in about 5-10 minutes later with the biscuits and the tea and coffee. So that was quite funny.
That's amazing.
But that's just an example of his charisma, his character. He's just he just lifted the place completely, changed the mood around the club. And as I say, he was just the right man at the right time. I don't think anyone could do the job that Martin O'Neill has done in the space of time that he has.
I did a podcast with Martin O'Neill. I guess it was 2 years ago now. It was for the 20th anniversary of West getting to Seville, and his publicist that I spoke to was like, "Listen, he can only spare about half an hour." He stayed with me for almost 2 hours, just talking about football. He was just such a nice guy. Above being a great manager and all that, just a lovely, lovely man. Before I let you go though, Ryan, I get him asking you how long a piece of string is. But would you make a Nancy as an appointment? Is it a bigger gamble than normal? I get most appointments these days are a gamble to some extent, but I don't know. I feel like this one's a wee bit more of a gamble than usual.
Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly will go down as a gamble, but I mean, for all the accusations that Celtic fans have been levelling at the board over recent times, one thing you can't say is, the fact that they've, apart from Tony Mowbray in 2009, 2010, just about every managerial appointment they've had since the turn of millennium has been a success.
Yeah.
you know. So they have got a good eye for a manager. I think it's Paul Tisdale who's has been mainly leading the search for this one, and he has thrown his full weight behind Wilfred Nonce to get the job. So again, you just got to trust their judgment on it. I'm sure there would have been countless candidates interviewed for the job, but Wilfred Nonce, again, Celtic are thinking outside the box. He is an upcoming coach. You listen and read about what people are saying and who watch and are involved in MLS, and they can't speak highly enough of him. So I think anyone who's kind of turning their noses up at the appointment should be wary. A lot of people were sceptical of Ange Postecoglou when he arrived from I know that's the obvious comparison, but it is, it's true. A lot of people were sceptical when Ange Postecoglou came over. Who is he? You've got that famous Alan Brazil clip with him laughing at his name, but look what he turned out to do over the course of 2 years. So I think the thing with Nonce is he's definitely got a style of football as well, which will fit Celtic's DNA. His attacking style of football. He has won the MLS Cup. I think he was named the MLS Coach of the Year as well. So it might not be. I think he's 48 years old, so he might not have the experience and the CV of some of his Celtic predecessors. But I think it's obviously going to be a bit of a gamble on it, compared to bringing in someone else with a more experienced CV. But I think Celtic fans have just got to trust the board in this one and the decision makers, because, as I say, more often than not they've got it spot on.
In the comments there, you can see Mark saying it's a gamble that many fans expect Ange 2.0. If he doesn't hit the ground running, it will be panic stations. Marty says there's no guarantee he will be Ange, but Scott, but point to Scott, Ange had a lot more experience. That's actually what I was going to say to you, Scott. Ange had been obviously to the World Cup with Australia. He'd managed in Australia. He'd managed in Japan. I don't know what it is. There's something I think it's the lack of experience which is making me a bit kind of worried for Wilfred Nonce.
Daniel, I think you're right to think like that. Look, as we say, every managerial appointment's a gamble, but I do think this is probably a bigger gamble than most, because of the lack of experience in terms of just where he's been. There is a comparison with Ange, but like you say, Ange had a lot more experience behind him. He'd won trophies, he'd won leagues, he'd been to a World Cup. So it's slightly different. There will be pressure on Nonce, and as Ryan touched on, pressure on Tisdale at Celtic in the same way that there was pressure on Kevin Thelwell appointing Russell Martin, and obviously it didn't go to plan. And that's where we are now. Modern football, it's not just the manager and the board under pressure. If sporting directors are making these appointments, then they're going to come under serious scrutiny as well. So, as the caller said there, Nonce could come in, hit the ground running, and blow everyone away. That can always happen. But I do think fans and guys like ourselves are right to be sceptical and ask questions because of that lack of experience. You don't know how he's going to adapt. New country, new league. Ryan will know better than me, but I think he's a kind of 3-4-3 man. I think that's his kind of system. So right away, you ask, well, where the guys like Jota, Maida, Tuneki, where do they really fit into a 3-4-3? If they're not playing making out and out wingers, unless they're wing backs. He is a guy with a very specific style. I listened to one interview with him, and I always kind of worry, because I think he said the line that probably no foreign manager should ever say, even though I think Ange probably got away with it when he said something along the lines of, I think he just won a big game with Columbus Crew, and he said, look, it's not about the winning. It's not winning's not what matters. It's how you do it. Well, unfortunately, winning is all that matters here, and he'll find that out pretty quickly. But of course, if he can win, and he can win, the Celtic way in a certain style, then he'll be a big favourite immediately. But there's no denying there's big pressure. Same with every manager. We're going to talk about Rangers. Danny Rohl's only been in the job a matter of weeks, and people are already talking about if the next few results don't go his way, he's going to come under pressure. That's the nature of the beast here. So we'll see.
What will be interesting for me as well is who's going to be sitting alongside Wilfred Nancy when he is eventually parading in front of the press. You know, we've not had the chance to speak to Paul Tisdale since he was appointed head of football operations last year. You know, Peter Lawwell, Michael Nicholson. You know, but I think the last time Michael Nicholson faced the press was when Brendan Rodgers was unveiled in 2023.
Aye.
So obviously the shareholders didn't get the opportunity to ask questions at the abandoned AGM as well. So who sits alongside Wilfred Nancy will be interesting, and it's amazing to say, but Nancy could actually become a sideshow. The main questions might be directed at the chairman or chief executive or the head of football operations.
And also, to a lesser extent, Ryan, who's going to sit next to him in the dugout? I mean, I think we know he's going to bring a couple of coaches, you know, his men with him, but you know, we're led to believe there's going to be a Celtic man there. I think Sean Maloney would need to be kind of favourite for that role, surely, given what he's done with Martin O'Neill the last few weeks. But whoever it is, that'll be crucial. We always say it when these managers come into Scottish football. I think it is important that they've got somebody.
Yeah,
they've got somebody in there that knows the game, knows the environment. Can just fill you in with everything that you need to know, and not just stuff about the Scottish game, but just even stuff off the pitch. The whole landscape here, in terms of Glasgow. So he'll definitely need somebody kind of Celtic minded in there with him. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, John Kenny's a massive loss, obviously, to that background team. He's been there. Well, he's dedicated more or less his full career to Celtic, but obviously in the coaching capacity, he'd been there since the Ronnie Dyla days, and he worked under so many managers. So I think he was the kind of glue that kind of kept he continued. He
was the constant
coach. Yeah. So I think Sean Maloney's done I think he's been more or less been the coach on the field. I think obviously Martin Neal's been the figurehead, but I think it's been Sean Maloney that's been leading the coaching sessions. We're speaking to Arno Engels today, and it's fair to say that Mark Fotheringham as well is an extremely popular figure in the coaching staff with the players as well. He's a big personality, so it'll be interesting to see if he'll be sticking around as well. But like Scott says, you definitely need to have a Scottish voice in that coaching staff, especially with Wilfred Nancy having no experience whatsoever in this side of the pond. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who's appointed. But Sean Maloney, when he was unveiled with Martin Neal, did say that he didn't see this as an opportunity to become part of Celtic's coaching staff. He was happy to go back to his role as players' loan pathways manager. But whether his mind will change if he's offered the job, I think it probably would. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. But I wouldn't be surprised if both Sean Maloney and Mark Fotheringham stuck around.
Yeah, there is a link there with Maloney, isn't there? When you think of Henry, because Maloney worked with Henry with the Belgian team, Nancy's worked with Henry, so you think he would obviously speak about it. So it seems to fit that he would certainly be part of it going forward.
Yeah.
Ryan, time will tell, I guess. But for now, we'll let you go on the Hotline Live. Let you get back to your jet lag. Thanks for joining us.
All right, gents. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Ryan.
Cheers.
Much appreciated. Ryan McDonald there. Some man for coming on. Scott, you mentioned Rangers earlier on. I know you were at the Danny Rohl press conference earlier today. I think we can actually hear a little bit from the Rangers manager now. So let's hear what he had to say.
Danny, you said you need players that understand what it means to play for Rangers, and some players maybe need to improve in that regard. Is that something you think players can learn to do, or is that something you think players either have or they don't have?
I think it's both. On the one side, and this is what I try, is to give my players with the idea, confidence. I think you can create confidence and belief with good ball winning situations to create a good feeling and do something in this direction. And other part is, of course, I think there's a difference between when you play for sometimes an underdog and then you come to a big club that want to win titles. I think this is part as well. I think for me it's both. We have to improve our direction, how we play, because with this you can create energy. With this you can create a competence. On the other side, you need also some players they understand and they had some experience in this level. this is crucial. I think it's both for me at the moment, and this is also how we should go in the general way.
Danny, you've had to deal with difficult situations already, like at Sheffield Wednesday. How much do you relish this challenge of getting this right, fixing these problems?
Yeah, to be honest, I try, and I'm still positive because for me it was clear when I'm right. Yes, you want to make a great impact. I think, and I make it better, but there's still 5 games, 13 points,
Much more how we had before. But I see, of course, in this step forwards,
you have to be always sometimes ready to understand there's also some small setbacks. For me, it's about take on the one side the emotional things around me a little bit away, look to the clear picture, look how we can work on solutions, and be a good mirror for my group. I think this is where I'm proud that I showed them that I'm confident, strong. I look for solutions. I see that we can do it better, and not to have so many questions in my mind. I see good things and see steps where I think, okay, this is a big part what we have to improve, and it goes not overnight. I see you take a win, I think, against Livingston, even though it's not the nicest game after the national break. We took a win. We took the first win against Braga. I think 60 minutes we played well, and now we had a game where we think there was not everything on, and it should be not for our group straight to think, no, our confidence is back. No, it's about, okay, we have to take the right things, have the solutions, we have to move forward. We as a club, we have to look what is in the future important for solutions, and if we do this, then we make the progress what we want. Football is on the one side short term, it's about winning, and for me it's about the side of the winning to see it and which direction we think go in the second half of the season.
But one player does feature much as Ryan Cameron. What does he have to do to impress you enough to get a chance?
Yeah, I think it's. I think we spoke the last time about Finlay. He got now some minutes. I think for Finlay it was really okay because all this 20 minutes and it's good for him. And now it's about the next players. You see the injuries coming. Lyle had got some minutes, and now it's be ready. Sometimes you have to be patient enough to wait for the next opportunity, and then if the opportunity is there to jump in. I think general as a group have to take our opportunities more and more, and that means that for me that if you are out for two games, you are still out for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, because there's so many games you get the opportunities, but then it's about use them, and maybe on the next match day you get some minutes, and then he can show and he can help the team, and this is quite crucial. I think we still have to stick together here in this building around, and if we do this, I think tomorrow we have a fantastic way support around. I think this is good to see, and then we try our best, bring up all the effort, and hopefully we take the next.
Danny Rohl there. We've already got comments coming in, Scott, on the Rangers manager. Let me throw a few of these at you. Sean says there's a touch of Clement about Rohl. Will be interesting to see how he handles a bit of pressure. Your Low Muppet says we need players that ooze confidence, like Fergie McCoy's Goff. They are the kind we need, not players that need it. I mean, I'm laughing just because, just go out and get yourself a Goff and McCoist. Rangers is okay says, how many do you reckon we can get in January, Scott? I know Rohl wouldn't be drawn today, but he did mention 5 players, and money isn't an object for Kavanagh. But how many of the loans could go back to?
Well, that's a big question for January, Daniels. How much wheeling and dealing can they do? There's not going to be the 30 million that was there in the summer to go and buy players. So, but the squad's nowhere near good enough. No, drastically short on quality. So many signings haven't worked out. So the club's got a big job. No, the recruitment team's got a big job in their hands, not just to try and identify players to come in, but to see if they can try and get rid of some of these players as well who haven't cut it. The loans will be interesting. I mean, they're obviously season loans for guys like Aarons and Giga. So can no if they're not going to, if Danny Rohl doesn't see them as being part of it for the next part of the second part of the season, is it possible to end these loans early, and send them back, which might create a bit of room wages wise to get other guys in? Can they offload people like? I know he's just Danny Rohl announced he's injured today, but say like I'm just using Oliver Antman as an example. Right. They brought him in for like 4 million, just hasn't worked out. Could they get a buyer for him and kind of try and cut their losses? It will be about wheeling and dealing. I think there'll be ins and outs in terms of how many he needs in. I mean, I was laughing with Andy Newport earlier on today because he asked them directly how many do you need in, and his reaction will probably become an internet meme in the next couple of days because he kind of took a deep breath and smiled as if to say, I need hunters in, I need loads of guys in, without actually saying it. But they certainly need 2 or 3 minimum, and by that I mean guys that will come in and directly impact and influence the first team, go straight. Aye, and I've said this before. I mean, it was interesting again today. Danny Rohl talking about the window. He's talking now about dealing directly with Andrew Kavanagh. Conversations between those two. There's no mention of Dan Purdy, the technical director. No mention of Robbie Thelwell, head of recruitment. These were obviously Kevin Thelwell's guys, but it's all about Danny Rohl and Andrew Kavanagh, and that tells me Danny Rohl's going to take control of this window, and it might be the only window he gets the opportunity to do that if Rangers kind of rebuild that recruitment structure going forward. But I don't think it's a bad thing if Danny Rohl's in total control of this window, because where Rangers are, where that squad's at, he knows, or he claims to know what's required to improve this team and improve the squad. So I would just let him go on with it. And if he can bring 2, 3, 4 guys, maybe that he knows, maybe that he trusts, maybe that he's worked with before, it might not cost a lot of money. I don't think money's the key thing here. It's about getting the right people to go and improve that team and improve the performance at Ibrox. And I think Rohl deserves that opportunity. You look at what he's been left with and what he's having to work with. I'm not saying he's been perfect, Danny Rohl, far from it. He's already made some mistakes. Sunday's result was poor. A couple of European results haven't been up to scratch. But he is working with another guy's players, and I don't think you can properly judge him until he gets a few of his own guys in. And that's what's going to happen in January. I'm convinced of that.
In the comments, Scott, Kenneth speculates that it could be 5 or 6 players that he needs. He even says Joe Rebo, Ryan Porteous and Kenny McLean. The one that I would put to you is they need a striker. I mean, I thought Bojan Miovski would be a big success, been there and done it at Premiership level. I don't know why it's not worked out, but every time Rangers play, I just find myself asking, who's going to score the goal here?
I know, but it's incredible we're saying that, Daniel. You're right. I mean, you're right, but I mean, it's unbelievable to think they've got Shamiti at 8 million, Majovski 4 million, Danilo 5 million, and they can't buy a goal between them. I mean, if that doesn't sum up how poor the recruitment's been, I don't know what does. But I tend to, a few weeks ago, if you'd have said to me, will they bring a striker in January, I wouldn't have been sure because of that. No, because they had these 2 new guys who cost serious money, and because they Danilo, I think I said to you before, even if they could maybe try and get Danilo out, that would maybe create space for one more to come in. But the lack of creativity and the lack of goals now has become so alarming that I don't think they can come out of January without signing a striker. And again, it might not be a guy for big money. It might just be a guy that Rohl knows will come in and do a job and get some goals for them. because in terms of the attacking areas, things have to change. It can't go on like this the way it did at the weekend. I know Shamiti was missing at the weekend, but as you say, it's difficult to know where the next goal's coming from. So no, they do need a striker, and it'll be interesting to see where they look, because good strikers aren't cheap. I don't think they'll go back to England again, given what's happened in the previous window. We've spoken about it so many times. There's just no value there. Overinflated prices and wages, as has been proved with Shamiti is the prime example. Even Asgard, I would suggest, for the money they paid for him. So, look, they need, you're right, they need a striker. I think they'll definitely need a centre-back. I think they definitely need a left-back. And I think they definitely need a midfielder as well. So, I mean, you could go through the whole team. That's how bad it is. But you're right, goals are a problem. So a striker will be on the list.
Green Machine in the comments says you can have the best striker in the world, but you need the players to give the ball. Rangers don't have any of that ilk. And Rebel points out that Dessers was head and shoulders above what they have now, and he did take a lot of stick, Dessers, but he was always in that position to at least miss a chance, if you know what I mean.
Aye, but that's the regression, because when Morelos left, Dessers effectively came in as his kind of replacement, or eventually was his replacement. But people saying, no, he's not good enough. He wasn't as good as Morelos, so he's not good enough. We need to move him on, get somebody else. No, they're not Shamiti at 8 million, who you think will come in and has to be better than that, but it's actually again worse than Dessers. So they keep going back the way, they keep getting worse. And that's what happens with poor recruitment. Now, it was Dessers the answer for Rangers? No, probably no. I mean, we criticised them enough on here, but the goals he scored, what was it, 51, 52? No, he's two seasons.
He's undoubtedly better than what they've got now, I would say.
They would bite your hand off for that now. And as you say, he was there getting chances. They're not even creating chances. And when they do create chances, Shamiti and Majowski don't seem to be anywhere near them.
Yeah. Very briefly in the comments again, let me have a look. Sean points out they'll need a bucket load of cash next summer to replace the 5 guys in defence all leaving. Obviously, the loans we mentioned. Scotland the Brave says, ask Scott if they can keep stockpiling players. Financial fair play dictates what you can do. They have one of the biggest squads. I think you will find they need to let some go. I think we agree with that there's a lot of players that do need to be kind of shipped out. And Kenneth again puts forward Abdullah Sima. Him and Cherny were the 2 in the summer that I just thought would have been no-brainers. Doesn't matter who the manager is. Proved they can go there and do it. And I think it's mad that they didn't go for either.
Aye, you're right. I mean, Cherny, given what Cherny did for them last season, he should have been a no-brainer in terms of getting in, just paying the cash. When you look at the money they've spent on other players, there was no risk attached to go and getting Cherny as long as he was up for staying. But look, we've said before in here, they didn't need to spend. Of course, they were going to spend money, but to get quality in, they didn't need to spend a fortune.
I didn't need to break the bank.
Lawrence Shankland was there. I'm fed up saying it, but he was there as a free transfer, who would have come in and scored goals for Rangers. No, there were other players available, homegrown players. I think James Penrice at left back, for instance, the left backs. No, he's going to AEK Athens. Wasn't a massive fee. No, probably the best, or one of the best left backs in the league last season. Rangers could have went and got him. Instead, they find themselves in a position where now they've got a 19-year-old left back in Magoma, who
no real backup.
No backup at all. I mean, incredible. Huge pressure on Magoma, and doesn't it look like he's at the required level or standard to be Rangers' first choice left back. I would even look at guys like Scott McKenna, who was available in the summer. He's ended up going to Dinamo Zagreb. Again, I'm not saying he's a world beater, but would they come in and made Rangers better defensively than they are now? I think he would have. So look, it was just a poor window, really poor window, and Kevin Thelwell's paid the price for that with his job, and that's why I think this window, and it might just be the one window where Rohl takes control of it, but I think they'll be really, really picky, really specific on the guys that they go and get. And that's where the manager, I said earlier on, that's where the manager will start to come under a bit of pressure if results don't go his way. Because if he is taking control of the window, goes and gets 3 or 4 guys, as I say, that he likes and he trusts or he knows, but they have to do it. They have to perform. They have to get them results, because if they don't, the spotlight will soon come on him.
We can see, just before we wrap up, the Rangers fixtures. Obviously tomorrow night they're at Tannadice, but Kilmarnock away at the weekend, Ferencváros away next week, then Hibs at home, Hearts away, and obviously looking ahead, the 3rd of January away to Celtic. A lot of really tricky games coming up for Danny Rohl. Really, really tricky games.
There is. I mean, and this goes back to what we kind of said at the start of the season, Daniel, in terms of how important it was for Rangers to get off to a good start, because looking at the fixture list, it did feel as if they had some kind of favourable, winnable games at the start. I know Motherwell have done really well, but you think back to those first 2 games of Russell Martin. I think it was away to Motherwell, home to Dundee. It felt as if, right, he's got to get 6 points on the board. It didn't happen, and it's all went downhill for there. And as you say, you look at these fixtures coming up over the Christmas and New Year, culminating in obviously the Old Firm game at Celtic Park on January 3rd. Massive games for Rangers. I mean, just massive. And huge test for Danny Rohl with this group of players, because looking at them at the weekend at home to Falkirk, looked as if the players, like I said it at the weekend to you, they looked as if they lacked motivation, lacked desire, lacked urgency, which is inexplicable really when they've still got a chance to kind of get themselves involved in a title race if they get their act together. I mean, they basically got away with a point at the weekend. Falkirk could have won that game. They won't get away with points at these venues and in these games if they play with that, with that lack of intensity, lack of tempo, lack of desire to go and win games. They just won't get away with it with these away games starting on Wednesday night. I know Dundee United haven't been in great form, neither have Kelly, but still difficult places to go. And then when you think, Ferencváros away, which if they lose will basically end the Europa League campaign, which might actually not be a bad thing, just to kind of almost put that to one side. But no, the league games coming up are so tricky, so tough. And in that sense, you feel for the manager a wee bit, because clearly the squad's not good enough.
Aye.
And at the moment, he's been hamstrung by injuries on top of that. Suter, Cornelius, Mikey Moore had started coming onto a game, who would have been crucial in some of these games in terms of his creativity. And then today, obviously, Antman been out, and Antman's not been great. Let's not kid ourselves. He's, apart from his debut in Europe, he's been really poor. But it's just another body down for Danny Rohl. And look, it might create an opportunity for a Finlay Curtis, or as I mentioned in that press conference to the manager, Lyle Cameron, who's hardly featured at all. I mean, Lyle Cameron scored 14 goals last season for Dundee, 9 in the league, I think. And this is a Rangers team that can't create or score at all at the minute. So it might be an idea to try and get him involved, because given opportunities to the likes of Asgard and Antman and others, isn't working at the moment. So I think over the next few weeks you will see the likes of Curtis and Cameron involved more. I think Bayrami, who came in at the weekend and was their best player, I think he'll be really important for them in the next few weeks, which you might not have said 3 or 4 months ago. So it's going to be a really tough period for them and a huge test for Danny Rohl. He's not been under a great deal of pressure as yet, because he's obviously won a few games in a row in the league. People have allowed him the kind of European defeats and the draw. But Sunday's one was a bad one. And if it doesn't go for him in the next couple of weeks in these tough games, there will be a bit of scrutiny and a bit of pressure on him all of a sudden.
Just very finally, Scott, we've got a full card tomorrow night in the Premiership. You can see the fixtures on your screen there. I mean, you mentioned earlier, I think we'd all expect Celtic to get 3 points against Dundee. Yeah. But again, Hearts, 1 win, I think it's 1 win in 5 now. massive game for them to get their title challenge back on track.
Yeah.
But Rangers at Tannadice, do you think they will manage to bounce back and get 3 points?
You can't take anything for granted to be Rangers at the minute, Daniel. I mean, going on their performance on Sunday, no chance. I mean, as I say, if they play with that kind of level of urgency and intensity, then they won't win at Tannadice. It's as simple as that. They need to up their game and get the bit between their teeth. Whether they're capable of that, we'll find out. I think there will be change. I expect to see a Curtis or a Cameron or that involved on Wednesday night, which might make the difference for them. But who knows? You just don't know with this Rangers team. I think Celtic will win comfortably. I expect Hearts to win as well. Kelly aren't in great form. I think at home, Hearts with a crowd behind them, they'll win and kind of get themselves back on track. Aberdeen, St Mirren in such poor form at the minute.
I was going to mention that 7 defeats in a row for St Mirren. And Aberdeen have obviously won the last 3 games 1-0. I would back Stephen Robinson to turn it around. I think he's one of the best managers in the country. But 7 defeats in a row is a lot.
It is. And it's weird because you've actually found yourself with some of those defeats saying St Mirren played really well. Obviously, the Celtic game in particular, they were really unlucky to get beat, obviously, with the McGregor late goal. Whether the cup final's on their minds, we've seen it before. It can happen, that distraction of having such a massive game up ahead and what's at stake there. I don't know. Listen, I wouldn't panic if I was St Mirren. As you say, you need to put your trust in Stevie Robinson. He's been there, done it. He's proved his worth. They've got a good squad there. I mean, you think they will get back on track. But tough game, obviously, going to Pittodrie. I mean, Aberdeen haven't been any great shakes either, but as you say, they have put together a few wins, albeit narrowly. So that'll be interesting. And I think the other game, Falk at Motherwell, I mean, it feels like the other two informed teams, apart from Celtic. And I was actually at the voting dinner last night that voted Martin O'Neill as manager of the month. But it was really tight between Askow at Motherwell and John McGlynn. Personally, I would have probably give it to John McGlynn. Just like they'd played one more game than Celtic. They were unbeaten. I think they'd won 2 and drawn 2. Obviously, drew at Ibrox on Sunday. I think the job John McGlynn's done there is just incredible. Absolutely incredible. And Askow, obviously, with Motherwell, it's all about the brand of football. I mean, they're unbeaten in the month as well. And they've done it with such style, especially. I wasn't at the game, but obviously everybody talks about that Hibs game, and they were sensational for an hour. So those two teams have done brilliantly. So what a game that could be at Falkirk if the two of them hit form.
Aye, absolutely. We will be back tomorrow night. We've got in the comments here. Let me see if we've just crashed on me. Mark says, "Is it a late one again, Dan?" It is. We'll be back at 10 p.m. tomorrow night. Rebel asked, did Keith fall off the ladder putting up his baubles on the Christmas tree? Because he said last night, Scott, he was putting up his Christmas tree yesterday. Bit soon for me, but he's always struggled for judgment, hasn't he, in big decisions? But
definitely.
But I can confirm he will be back tomorrow night for a 10 p.m. showing of the Hotline Live. We hope you can join us then. But for tonight, I think that brings to the end of the show. Scott, it's always a pleasure having you in the Hotline Live.
Brilliant. Cheers, Daniel.
Thanks for joining me. Thanks for all the comments as well tonight. And as I say, hope you can join us tomorrow for a late one. Thanks for watching.